Hello YouTube, this is Chandidi Tech Tips, and today I'm not going to review this Alienware 32 AW3225QF monitor, but I'm going to say the issues that I experienced. I just got the monitor about 5 days ago, not too long, and here is I would like to make everybody aware of these potential issues. So I'm going to start with the it doesn't have a 3.5 millimeter audio output, so it has an HDMI port called ER. I do not have speakers that currently supports ERs. I just have regular PC speakers. I moved my PlayStation downstairs because I did buy an EC. I actually returned it. I can't recall the product name, but that did not work. It didn't. It's called an HDMI extractor, audio extractor. So, and I bought it from this brand. It could be defective, but I didn't want to, the reason why I bought this and not a soundbar that has a native HDMI, because I don't want to put a huge soundbar in here. I used to have an older soundbar before this one here, and I didn't like being under the monitor, so I ended up buying EZCOO audio extractor 4K 120. That one unfortunately did not work. Um, the the monitor is not seen as an audio output. That will be issue number one. So I was gonna go return it tomorrow, and in a 2 weeks time, 3 weeks time, I will be forced to buy a soundbar that has HDMI on it, like natively supports HDMI, to give it a chance, because it's kind of ridiculous to unplug the 3.5 millimeter from the back of the PC, and then I'm using a DAC cable and plug it in. The PlayStation doesn't have one, but you get the idea. It's just I want to be able to switch um, um, between the two devices and get audio from the same set of speakers. And right now, that did not go smoothly. Second, um, a lot of people are complaining about uh, HDR 10,000 not being displayed when you enable HDR on Windows. I actually I still have the AW3423DWF monitor, and this one does not support Dolby Vision, so it's natively at HDR 10,000. This one does support Dolby Vision, so if you switch it off and you turn it back on again, it forces itself back on, and I actually like it. I actually had to fiddle with Windows HDR settings, the brightness at 50% in Windows. Oh, and this happens too. So if you can tell right now, it's in HDR 10,000. Let me make sure you're able to see my screen. Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Okay. So right now you can see Smart HDR desktop. Okay, that's interesting. I actually set it to HDR 1000. So I typically leave it at standard. And then let's go, yeah. RGB 16:9 Smart HDR Peak 1000. I did reset the monitor. I did reset the monitor settings to factory to fix the ERC issue. Okay, so now it is set to HDR Peak 1000, and that's fine and everything, but here is an issue that you cannot, in HDR, you cannot control the display contrast and brightness. It's grayed out. So you can see here right now, I have the Dell Display Manager. You can see far right, 100% brightness, contrast 75. In the AWC423DWF, because I used it for 2 years, Um, I don't recall if it was like this from the factory. I do recall after a firmware update, this became like not grayed out anymore. The contrast brightness remained grayed out, but the contrast I was able to slide up and down. I set mine at 90. This one it is locked. Second, I like to use the or at least I found a way to use it. So the Dolby Vision, right? You use HDR. You switch down and then I set this to 50. Watch, this will happen right now. If you switch it off and turn it on, it goes to HDR 1000. If you move the slider, oh, here, Dolby Vision, it kicked in immediately as soon as I moved the SDR content brightness. So I leave it at 50%, and I think this is the best settings when Dolby Vision is enabled, and I quite like it. Like now you can tell the monitor is brighter. In order for you to and this monitor seeing the display through YouTube does not serve it just. Like it doesn't serve it. You have to see it with your own eyes to see what I'm talking about. It's just in YouTube, if you're using an HDR TV, you can see the brightness difference between HDR 1000 and Dolby Vision. Dolby Vision is much more brighter, but you have to keep in mind you cannot, while Dolby Vision is enabled, and I'm talking about these issues hopefully will be fixed, but this monitor is on firmware number M2B as in Bravo 101, which is the factory firmware. It came from the factory. There is, as of today, what's today's date? As of February 4th, there is no firmware update from Dell yet. But yeah, so all I did, I just enabled it. Yeah, Dolby Vision gets enabled. You know, you set the SDR content brightness at 50%. Cool, cool. Issue number 2. OLED maintenance or OLED care. I like to test it because I came in again from the other Alienware display, which I already have. It's hooked up to my laptop downstairs. So I do have a good idea on how the OLED care was implemented correctly. You have two options. You have the pixel refresh, which works, right? And then you can set it to kick in, but you have, so here's the pixel refresh. You can tell it to work automatically when the monitor shuts down or goes into standby. That's a firmware bug, because when the monitor goes to standby and the button blink white, it does not kick in the pixel refresh. You turn on the monitor, you wake up the machine the next morning, you will see the panel care red or yellow. So you have to do it manually. That's a bug. Or if you shut down the machine and you see the panel care is yellow, and do not let the monitor to go to standby, you just switch it off like this, and it will go immediately to green, blinking green. Blinking green means it's doing its OLED a panel refresh, or a panel like the OLED what do you call pixel refresh. Yeah, so that's issue number 2. Issue number 2. Issue number 3, the panel refresh. It's buggy as hell. That one did not work at all. Like the panel refresh, it should take an hour. I did time it about 13 to 15 minutes. The monitor will wake up, no light, right? And it will not finish because it should go a blinking red light when you do the panel the panel refresh instead of the pixel refresh. So it doesn't finish it, because I know when it finishes it, it actually you will see like red lines going up and down, and you will see that at the end of the cycle, which about 60 minutes. This one gets interrupted regardless. I tried it so many times. In 13 to 15 minutes. So I'm hopeful that Dell will release a firmware that addresses the panel OLED care, that doesn't the panel I get mixed up. Not the pixel one, the panel one. The pixel one works halfway. Like at least it finishes the cycle, but you either trigger it manually or you switch off the display after you use it. You do not leave it to go to standby because it doesn't kick in automatically as expected. The other monitor that I have does it. This one does not, so it's a firmware bug for sure. And the firmware, what is it? Self-diagnostic, yeah. Where is it? Yeah, panel refresh. Panel refresh does not work at all. Pixel refresh works partially. This right now it's currently hooked up to a DisplayPort, as you can tell, and I'm actually forced to use. I wanted to use HDMI because HDMI 2.1 will use display compression as well, but it's higher bandwidth. But I could not use it while the G-Sync module enabled because it will cause flicker. Like if you plug in the display via HDMI. Right now you can still see it's DisplayPort 1.2, and that's the input source is DisplayPort. That's the final issue. Is if you use HDMI and you had the G-Sync enabled, you're gonna as soon as you open up any game or any graphics render, you will see random sporadic artifacts all over the display. I was about to return it, but then I googled the issue, and then a lot of people at Reddit forums having the same exact issue. So you either, if you want to use this HDMI, you disable G-Sync, but then you'll have screen tearing, and yeah, you'll have to wait until Dell releases a firmware. So in the meantime, I'm using DisplayPort. The reason why I want to use HDMI because I had an option, and I think it's using FARC, like FARC. I have bit depths of 12-bit instead of 10-bit, only when you use HDMI 2.1. Because I have it hooked up to a 4090, so I know the 4090 does support HDMI 2.1 on the video card and the display, so I'm getting higher bit depths, and I'm getting the full refresh rate of 240. So yeah, that's pretty much the issues that I have with it. Other than that, it's been a brilliant monitor. You get accustomed to the what do you call it, the display, the Dolby Vision being forced on all the time. I have a bug that, as you have seen, you switch it off, it goes to HDR 101000 or whatever, the desktop HDR mode that you left it on, and then if you adjust the Windows slider, it kicks on automatically, and this was also on, so you know the full this was using the latest Nvidia Display Drivers version. Which version this one is? Let's see, version 551.23. so now you have it. Hopefully Dell releases a firmware that addresses all these issues. Thank you for watching and have a good day.